Hello everyone, this is Tony Martinez and welcome to the Achievement Academy. I am super excited as today I get a chance to share with you guys some of the most important and relevant topics in our industry of sales. You see, over the last few years, technology and the information world have changed the way that we think, the way that we operate, and the way that we communicate with each other, and of course, with the world. You see, thanks to the internet and technology, information has become so easily accessible to us that we've become more aware and therefore more educated. However, we've also become less patient. We seek for immediate reward and immediate compensation. I mean, think about it. When we're on our social media, the first thing that we do is we're going through our phone looking for something new, something exciting. If it doesn't captivate our attention, we continue to go through it. They used to say that this is the information era. I believe that this is the time where we filter the information. We don't need more information, we need to filter. And we do it every single day. We ignore and ignore more. We become more impatient. And therefore, we become more demanding. Not just as people, but as consumers. So if we have changed our consumers, so have our clients. The way that we approach our customer can no longer continue to be the exact same way. But unless you understand the new psychology, you won't be able to keep up with times. So today, I get a chance to share with you guys the new sales psychology. You see, sales today demands a much more psychological, strategical, and personal approach. So if you guys are ready, because I know I am, let's begin. Okay, so I believe that we can all agree that the customer has changed. Number one, they become more educated. Because they're more aware and all the information that's out there about products that potentially don't work, about scams and companies that offer things that they don't deliver. Now, doesn't matter how good your product is, right? Unfortunately, they were taught to not trust. So it's very difficult to earn someone's trust now. They want to be able to research not just your product, but also you. And because of social media, that is now possible. So the customer now believes that they don't have to take a decision immediately. They want to be able to think before they buy. They want to be able to explore other options. Because of the internet, there's more competition. Prices are dropping. There are better deals, as they say. So the customer wants to be able to have the opportunity to do their research and explore other options. And if you offer some sort of a product or a service that demands immediate purchase, or your goal is to get them to purchase now, then get this. Special offers, one-time offers, anything that tries to incentivize the customer to purchase right away doesn't work anymore. They don't work because they've seen it everywhere. Special offers. If you buy now, we will double the product, right? Call now in the next 90 minutes and you'll receive. And even though that's not necessarily the way you offer it, but when they feel some sort of a special offer if you buy now, what's happening in their subconscious mind is you are reminding them of another product or a propaganda that offered them something very similar that was a complete sales pitch. So they hear you, and basically they're hearing the other salesperson, the other company, the other propaganda that offered them a special deal. And they go, wait a minute. It's like a red light that comes on that says, warning, warning. We've heard this before. They're trying to pressure us into buying. And nobody likes to feel pressured. So I believe that we can all agree that these are the result of the customer being more educated, more savvy, they're more aware. So being able to get a sale immediately is more difficult. What does that mean to us is that the sales process and the close can take even longer. Unless, of course, you understand how to overcome these. And in a second, we're going to go back to this and we're going to talk about what and how we can propose as a solution. Challenge number two, the customer has become less patient. Because of technology, right, and how easily it's made for us to be able to communicate with someone, we feel we don't even have to call them. We don't use the phones to call anymore. We text them. We poke them through Facebook. I mean, people don't even want to read a book anymore. They listen to audiobooks, right? So we've become less and less patient. which means that the result of this is that there's very little time to grab their attention. And remember, and this is important, if you don't have their attention, you have absolutely nothing. If you have not grabbed their attention and captivated the customer, there is no way that they will be able to make an educated decision about your product or your services, because they don't even know what it's about, because they've paid you no attention. It has become more difficult to create impact. And you know that especially if your sale is one that requires an immediate answer, then you need to be able to create impact quickly. And if you're not able to create that impact, then your product will not feel or seem as if it has value to the customer. And of course, long sales pitches and traditional advertising doesn't work anymore. It is not enough to captivate the customer. You see, the customer wants immediate satisfaction and immediate reward. And so if your product doesn't seem to offer them that, they want nothing to do with your product. The customer wants the next newest thing. They want something shiny, right? Some call it the shiny syndrome. If something's exciting and new, they want to be a part of it because it's new, because it's exciting. There's these trends that happen every now and then, and everybody wants to get on it. But if your product is not exciting, if it seems boring, or what you're doing and the way that you are expressing yourself with the customer is boring, there's no way you're going to have their attention. And if you don't have their attention, you cannot sell them anything. You cannot create impact. And of course, the longer your sales pitch is, right, the more old school way that you advertise your product, the less impact you're going to have and the less likability of them buying. Challenge number 3. People seek less commitment and more flexibility. And we see this more and more. I mean, we see it in relationships. People don't want to be tied down to anyone. They don't want commitment anymore. I mean, think about it. Even with our friends, we don't like to commit to saying yes to doing something or going somewhere. I mean, the iPhone changes and updates its phone every 6 months. People are afraid to buy into something because they might miss out on the next best thing. So the result of this is people do not buy commitment or anything that represents commitment, especially long term. People don't want to be restricted. People want things on their terms. And again, because of the internet, there's so many other products, there's so many other companies that might offer that. So they want to be able to have variety, options. They don't want restrictions. And very important, they don't want to be stuck. So they don't want to buy anything that offers a no cancellation policy. Now, maybe you're thinking, well, that's a little tough because my product is or does offer some sort of a commitment, right? My product does have some restrictions, right? And if they buy my product, well, I can't give them the money back. But you see, it's all in your approach. So in a second, we're going to go back to this one and we're going to discuss what is the solution that we can provide. Because today's customer has become more and more demanding, right? They seek immediate reward. They don't want long-term reward and satisfaction. They want it now. Challenge number 4, and a very popular one that's existed for a very long time, is of course, they don't like to be sold. Nobody likes to be sold. You see, everywhere we turn, everywhere we see, someone is trying to sell us something. Think about it, right? The TV is full of commercials. The internet is full of commercials. Even our social media. I mean, I'm sure you have a friend somewhere in there that is always posting stuff trying to sell you something. Don't we always have that one friend that no matter what time of the day it is, right? No matter what day of the week, they're always posting something to do with a product. And they're offering, and they're offering, and they're offering, and that's all that they do. So because we're so used to seeing this and left and right, someone or something is trying to sell us something, whether it's advertising, propaganda, or someone or an actual person, what happens and the result of this is we disengage, right? We don't like to be sold. So the minute you start to feel that there's a sales pitch coming on, we disengage. We disconnect. So maybe you did connect with the customer at first, And then you hit them too hard, he feels the sales pitch coming on, and of course they disconnect. And of course, they shut down. When someone shuts down, they no longer listen to what you have to say. I mean, let's go back to that friend of yours who's always posting stuff on Facebook or on their Instagram or any platform. I mean, seriously, do you look at everything that he puts on? Or do you go, here we go again, and you flip through it, Poor friend doesn't know it. The world is ignoring what he's posting because he doesn't know how to connect with the people. So what are they doing is they're putting stuff that's turning people off. And this is the important key here is any type of word that you might use in your advertising, in your sales pitch, that represents some sort of a pitch or something that they heard from someone else that represented a pitch, right there they go, here comes the sales pitch. So we got to be very careful with the words that we say, especially if you use old school words, cliche words, right? Because there's a ton of old sales books in there that have educated us to ask for their business or to ask them to buy it in a certain way, to pitch it in a certain way, and we continue to use the same verbiage as before. Again, the customer is more educated. They hear that word coming out and they go, oh, here we go again, and they disconnect. Images. Right? So any images that you show them that represents some sort of an offering, they disengage and disconnect. And of course, our intentions. If they feel that that is your intention because of your body language, because of your tonality, and maybe you have what they call commission breath, right? If they perceive that intention, they're going to disconnect and they're going to shut down. Okay, change number 5 and challenge number 5. And this is a very interesting one. Because people now want to feel noticed and appreciated. People want to be noticed. And I probably should have wrote this down. And I say, people today are looking for likes. They want likes on their social media. They want to be noticed. And it's maybe a little bit sad, but it's true. You know, people now, because of social media, have become more and more insecure about themselves and self-conscious. Because what happens when people see their friends or other people traveling the world and posting everywhere that they're going, right? They get a little bit jealous because maybe they're not doing it. What happens when you post a photo and it doesn't get any attention? You don't feel the same. And what happens when we see somebody else getting a lot of attention and a lot of likes and people are posting all over their social media? You know, we feel less. And you see, people want to belong. They want to be part of something. They don't want to be secluded. So this is a very important one because if you understand the power of this, you can use it for your advantage. And I'm going to share with you guys how. Because I believe that unfortunately, we have become more insecure of ourselves. We have become more self-conscious. This is a change that people haven't caught on to just yet. No one's talking about it, but it's so true. People are looking for likes. Okay guys, so we already talked about the challenges and what's changed. Now let's talk about solutions. Let's go back to the very first one where we agree that the customer is more educated now than ever. Because of the internet and every piece of information out there has told them to be cautious, right? It's told them to do their research before they buy anything. It's told them that there is so much competition that they don't feel that they have to decide or make a decision right away. So how do we overcome that? Well, I propose the following. We must begin by connecting with our client before we try to sell anything. We have to connect with our customer and with our audience. You see, I find that one of the biggest challenges in the sales industry is that most people were taught that they first have to begin by telling them what the product does for them. And because some of us are so excited about the product and the features and the benefits, we're so excited that we cannot wait to tell our customers all about it. But you see, we don't put ourselves on their shoes. The only thing that they're hearing is sales pitch. So they disconnect, they disengage, and they shut down. So it's crucial that you understand that you have to connect. Because see, unfortunately, we were taught to begin by telling the customer what the product does for them. So we tell them about the features, right? We tell them what they're going to get in return. And then we were taught to tell them how our product works and how they're going to be able to use it. So we tell them what it does and how it works. And then we ask them to buy it. But you see, unfortunately, we spend no time in trying to get to know our customer, in trying to know what's important for them, trying to understand where they come from. I say that we should all start with our why. What's your why? Right? What do I mean by this? What I mean by this is, why do you do what you do? Why did you choose to be in the industry? What moves you? What are your goals? What's your purpose? What's your motive? Because if you don't share this with your customer, if you're not able to connect with them just to a human degree, how are they ever going to want to listen to you or even trust you? So the only way you can build trust is by connecting, by sharing with them a little bit about you, a little bit about your company. So when I say start with why, I'm talking about what is your purpose, what is your motive, and of course, what is your company's motive? What's their mission statement? What's their philosophy? Because you see, there are some companies who understand one thing very clearly, and that is that you must start with why. And one of the companies that we see this being done very effectively is Apple. Apple Computers. Apple, just a few years ago, was the leading corporation worldwide. And they understood one thing that not a lot of companies understand, even till today. Very little do. And that is that if you don't connect with the audience, if you don't connect with your people, they are not going to care about you. You're going to lose their attention. And remember that if you don't have their attention, you have absolutely nothing. You see, Apple begins every advertising propaganda, every commercial that they do with their why, their mission statement. And I'm sure you've seen many commercials about Apple. And if you have, you will see that the last thing that they focus on is the product, the features, and the benefits. They spend more time talking about why they do what they do, how innovative they are, how rebellious they are, how they think different. And then you look at the commercial and you go, whoa, I think different too. I'm rebellious too. And through the visuals that they use, through the different commercials and the appeal and the sexiness of it, right? It attracts us because we feel connected to their brand, we feel connected to their message. And therefore, we buy their products, we buy their cell phones, we buy their computers, we buy their iPads, we buy the Apple TV. And that's why, till today, they're one of the world's leading companies. Because they connect with the customer, they start with their why, with their purpose, with their mission statement, before they offer any type of a benefit or a feature. And so it is important that you guys understand that unless you connect with the customer, they won't care about you, about your features, and about your product. You see, Apple understands one thing very clearly, and that is that the only part of the brain responsible for decision making is our emotional brain, which is called the midbrain. It is not the logical part of our brain that does purchases. It is the emotional part of the brain. So if we trigger their emotions, we will be able to get much further, and we will be able to build emotional urgency. Earlier we talked about the challenge of the customer being more educated is that they want to think about it. So if what you sell or what you offer demands an immediate yes, demands an immediate purchase, and that is your goal, then how are you going to build urgency? You're not going to build urgency by offering a 2-for-1 if they buy now. If you call now in the next 30 seconds, you're going to receive, that doesn't work anymore. The only way that you're going to build urgency is emotionally. So if you can learn to trigger their emotions and spend more time and focusing on what this is going to do for them as a person, for them as a family, for their organization, how it's going to make them and help them reach their goals. So if we're talking about something that's relative and important to them emotionally, then you're going to drive a decision. You're going to build urgency, and that is the only way that you will get people today to act upon your product. Because if we trigger the rational part of our brain, if we trigger the logical part of our brain, the only thing that they're going to want to do is think about it. Because that's the part of the brain that's responsible for thinking about it. It is the part of the brain that digests numbers, digests information that is hard to understand. So if you spend more time talking to features and your benefits, you're wasting your time and you're wasting a customer. Focus on the emotions. Focus on connecting with the customer before you move forward. Last one, and very important, you have to know your product. Because if the customer is educated already and they know what's out there, then shouldn't you? You are the expert. You have to know your product inside and out. And you have to be ready and prepared to answer any question that is important to the customer right there, especially if you want to earn their business now. You see, I find that most people don't know the product or the competition and what other people are offering. So if you don't know, then the customer is very simply going to tell you, well, how do I know that your competition next door doesn't offer a better product? How do I know, that maybe they're offered for less money? But instead, if you're prepared, you can actually tell the customer, you know what, Mr. Customer, we have done our research and we have gotten to know the competition and we know what everybody else is offering. And we believe we are offering the most cutting-edge product available today in the market. And you can say with conviction if you know your product. But if you don't know your product, they will sense that, they will feel that, and that right there can lead them to want to think about it. Can lead them to feel that maybe you don't know your product that well. And maybe they shouldn't trust what you're saying. But if you know your product, that's going to allow you to have confidence when talking about it. That's going to allow you to talk about it with conviction. And when they feel the conviction because you know your product, you know the industry, you know the competition, they're going to know that they're doing business with the right person. Okay, challenge and solution number 2. We talked about the customer has become less and less patient, right? They seek immediate reward and immediate satisfaction. So if we're not able to captivate their attention quickly, we will lose them. So, solution number 1 is captivate them. Captivate their attention. Now you can do this through several different ways. 1, using the right words that are sexy and appealing to the customer. Images. Your images have to be exciting. Now maybe you're not the most creative person, then get with someone who can help you with some of the creation of these things, because this is crucial. And the sounds that you're using. Now what I mean by sounds, I'm talking about the tonality of your expressions when you're speaking with your customer. You can captivate someone by simply making certain tonalities that let the customer know that this is exciting, that this is important for them, that this is something that they should definitely pay attention. So if you know how to control your tonality to raise it at the right points, right, of a word or of your presentation or of your pitch, what the customer is learning through what you're saying and through the pitch is that this is important. You have to pay attention to this. So you have to be able to know how to raise your tonality throughout the parts of the presentation that are important and that are crucial. The words that you use have to be appealing and they have to be sexy. You can no longer use the old school way of pitching because it involves old verbiage. Verbiage that they've heard somewhere else and they go, oh, here comes the sales pitch. And again, they disengage, right? So you have to be able to captivate their attention and you have to be able to do it quickly. That's why they say first impressions are the most important. Now, solution number 2, use power statements and use them early. A power statement basically is a short verse or a statement that of course has a lot of power, has a lot of impact. So how do you do this? If you know your product inside out, choose the features and the benefits that are the most exciting, the most compelling, the most impactful, and what you want to do is you want to put them together in statements, and as you go through your presentation, as you go through your sales pitch, you're delivering these power statements and you're delivering them early to captivate the customer's attention. One of my mentors told me, he says the key to being able to have someone's attention is to buy their attention in increments of 5 minutes. So he said, Tony, all you need is to say something exciting and compelling that the customer gets, you have their attention, and then you have 5 more minutes of their time. And then of course, when that attention starts to go down, you do another power statement. And this is what he meant when he said, buy yourself 5 more minutes. And you buy yourself 5 more minutes by delivering these power statements. A power statement can also be a fact that is exciting, a fact that is compelling, because people like stats, right? Because they feel as though what you're saying has more power. There's something called the power of stats. So that right there can be a power statement. I'll give you guys an example of a power statement, okay? Assuming, of course, that your company does this, you can use this one. If not, get creative. So let's just say that you work with a company that does a lot of business in one region or one area, and your company is responsible for more sales than any other company in that region. You can use that right there to create impact and power, because the client's going to feel that they're doing business with the right company. So one of the things that you can tell them is say, Mr. Customer, let me share with you one of the biggest reasons why we as a company happen to be the leading company in this region. We do more business than any other company. Let me show you why that is. And then you tell them whatever you want to tell them after. So that would be a power statement. And so what I like to do is I like to get to know my company really well. I like to know the company's history and some of the company accomplishments, because you can use these accomplishments as power statements about your company or your service. Testimonials. A testimonial is a great power statement. Maybe someone has used your product and had a phenomenal experience with it. That right there can be a power statement, because people like to hear from other people. Now, open-ended statements. What do I mean by open-ended statements? Have you ever been with a friend that's telling you something very exciting, something very compelling, and he's driving the conversation and you're getting more and more excited, and then all of a sudden his phone rings and he says, oh bro, sorry man, I have to go. And you're like, well wait, you gotta finish the story, man. You were to the most important part, the most exciting part. Finish your story. And he leaves it open. Doesn't that drive more curiosity? Doesn't that drive more excitement? So don't always close the statements, because if you leave an open-ended statement, you allow for questions to be asked. So look for creative ways that you can deliver a statement that is important to the customer. They would normally think you're going to follow it up with another one, or maybe it's a 2-part statement. Tell them the first half, and then move on to something else. So that they go, whoa, hold on a minute, but you didn't answer. So what happens after? What happens next? Because that's also going to get them to get involved with you. But see, this is where you have to be creative. Next one, shorten your pitch. Very simple, guys. You got to shorten your presentation. You know, it used to be before maybe that, you know, a long pitch used to make work. And it worked because people didn't know any better. There wasn't so much technology. But again, they're less patient now than ever. They don't have the same attention span that they used to. So if you understand this, you're gonna cut your presentation. Okay? And sales managers, project directors, really consider this, because our presentations and our pitches are taking way too long. And what that's allowing is only for the people to disengage. And of course, our attention span can only hold so much. If we go past that, no matter how much they like you, no matter how exciting your product is, there comes a point where the customer can't listen to you anymore. They're overwhelmed with information, or simply they're tired. If they're sitting down, you know, their behind hurts. So you have to be able to cut your presentation, and I'm going to leave you guys with this. Less is more. Okay, change number 3 and solution number 3. People seek less commitment and more flexibility. A very interesting one, right? Because this can give us a lot of challenges, especially if our product does involve some sort of a commitment. At least it's going to involve the financial commitment. And maybe it does have some sort of restriction or guidelines, because most products have to. But because the customer is seeking less commitment and flexibility, we have to get very creative. So here's what I propose. Create an innovative approach within your presentation or your pitch. So even if your product maybe is not the most flexible, and maybe it's not one that offers no commitment or little commitment. So how do we go around that? Well, if when you deliver your product or your presentation or your advertising, if your approach within that presentation or pitch is innovative and different, right there you're already transmitting to them something that they haven't seen before. And because people want something that's different, something that's new, something that's creative, they're gonna already pay more attention to you, and they're gonna start to feel that your product, if your way was creative and innovative, they're gonna feel that your product's the same. Next one, use language that describes and transmits flexibility and variety. So when I say use language, I am talking about using certain words. Because there are certain words that trigger flexibility. There are certain words that trigger variety. And because people don't want to be stuck to one thing, the minute that they feel that they're going to be stuck to your product, the minute that they feel that they have to commit, right, they're going to completely disengage. So we have to make sure that we're using the right words and the right language that describes and transmits flexibility and variety. You have to give your product or services a makeover. You have to make it appeal sexy. Your product has to be sexy. It has to be attractive. If you can make it feel sexy and attractive with your entire approach, with the words that you're using, with everything that you're conveying, with your tonality, with your body language, and if you're advertising, then look for ways that your advertising can feel appealing, can feel sexy, can feel innovative. Okay, there's something called the shiny syndrome. And a lot of us suffer from that. The shiny syndrome is when we go after anything that's new. I mean, we can be walking along our day-to-day and we see something new and shiny, we go, oh, shiny, whoa. And we're attracted to it like zombies, right? We want things that are different. We want things that are new. So your entire approach has to change. And last one, and very important one, use third-party stories of people that have already used your product and what this is doing for them and how they feel about it. So you can use a third-party story to describe someone who's very happy, who feels very sexy, who feels new, who feels excited, right? The best way that you're going to be able to get people who don't want commitment, who don't want flexibility, or sorry, I apologize, who want flexibility, is to be able to tell them about others who are already doing it and buying it anyway. You see, people want to do what others are doing. People are afraid to risk, right? We talked about earlier. The iPhone does a new phone and sells us a new phone every 6 months. So people risk when they buy something that something new or better might come out. And so if they say yes to you, they feel like they're missing out somewhere else. They feel that they could have more options somewhere else. But if you tell them about others that are doing it, then they're going to believe that your product is the newest trend, that your product is the coolest, that your product is the most innovative. And if you use the right words, the right images, and you commit and you transmit that to them, then that is one of the best ways that you can get someone to be able to feel attracted to your product right away. Okay, challenge number 4 and solution number 4, they don't like to be sold. Nobody likes to be sold, right? We see it everywhere we go. Anytime we feel someone starts to sell us, we disengage. So how do we go about overcoming that? And I talked a little bit about this already earlier, is we must connect. Because if your first approach is to tell them about the features and the benefits, they go, here we go again, and they disengage. So you have to be able to connect. There's nothing that's going to be a better way of being able to offer something to someone who doesn't want to be sold than by connecting with them first. Now, very important one, focus on offering real value. And I mean this, guys, because a lot of us, just because our product might offer 10, 20 different features and benefits, we want to talk about all of them. And we only feel we're being sold to when what we're being sold doesn't represent an interest to us. If the features and the benefits you are offering me don't represent value to me, I disengage. But if you start to actually talk about things that I care about, if you actually start to talk about things that I feel represent value to me, my family, or my organization, then I'm gonna start paying attention to you. And the only way that we can do this is by getting to know our customer. And we get to know our customer by understanding them, by connecting with them. If we understand our customer, we can then take the parts of our service or product that really offer value. Because when someone's offering you real value, you really have no choice but to listen. Because it might actually bring value, it might actually be a good thing for you. And focus on what and how your product or services will change their life. If you can focus on what your product will do for them in the overall picture, how much happier they're going to be, how much better they're going to feel, right? If you talk about life-changing topics, you're going to captivate their attention and they're not going to feel like they're being sold. Because we only feel we're being sold when the features and benefits don't represent anything to us. So we have to be able to understand our customer, and for this we have to spend some time, a lot of time, listening to what's important to them so we can focus on that and look for things about your product and your services that actually offer real value. Because also you feel much better, and then guess what? You can pitch it, you can transmit it with way more conviction because you know you're actually doing something good for them. You know that if they buy your product, if they consume your product, if they hire your services, you're going to change their lives. But for that, you have to know your product very well. You have to know your customer very well. And more importantly, you have to be able to know what to filter and only focus on what represents value to the customer. We talked about how social media has made our customers and us more and more insecure, more self-conscious. Now, I also told you that if you knew how to use this, you can use this to actually help you and actually help the customer. Let me explain what I mean. This is what I propose. You have to find ways that through your product, you can empower them. Because if we are more insecure than ever, don't we feel good when someone builds on our confidence? When someone makes us feel good? Don't you have that friend that whenever you're not feeling so good, you can always go talk to? And they'll always listen? And by the time that you're done, they empower you and they make you feel good? And by the time you're done, you leave like a total different person? And we love to be around those people because they empower us. So how does your services, how does your product empower them? Find ways that your product can give them more confidence. Because more and more people are lacking confidence because of social media. Make them belong. You see, we all want to belong. We want to belong to a club. We want to belong to the cool crowd, right? We want to belong to the interesting people. We want to be interesting. We want to be noticed. So how can your product and your service make them feel part of something? Because we all want to be part of something. We all want to be cool. Now you might be thinking, well, I don't know if that's necessarily me. Well, you have to understand one thing. That this works on our subconscious. This is not something that we're conscious about. You see, fear works in the subconscious. And we fear not being cool. We fear not being good enough. We fear not being noticed because we might get an instinct. Because people will forget about us. So fear works in our subconscious and makes us more insecure. Thanks to technology and social media. So if you can find ways that your product empowers individuals and gives them confidence, they will buy anything that you have to offer at any price. You see, as we talked about earlier, the midbrain, the part of the brain that is emotional, is the only one that's responsible for decision making. So if you can talk about what this is going to do for them and how it's going to make them feel, if it makes them feel a certain way, they will buy it. That's why sometimes we buy things based on emotion that we don't really need. How many times have you bought something that later on you go, man, what did I do? I was emotional, I was in the moment and I bought it. You bought it because of how it made you feel, not because of the features, not because of the benefits, but because of what it made you feel. And at the end of the day, no matter what service you offer, no matter what product you offer, you have to focus on the emotions involved and how it's going to make the customer feel. Because if it makes them feel good, if it empowers the people, and they can gain confidence from your services and your product, then at the end of the day, we're doing a good thing. We're helping them, and they're helping us. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is Tony Martinez from the Achievement Academy, and Success is the Movement. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next week at our next training session.